Hi everyone. Welcome to another LTX tips and tricks. That like messed me up almost immediately. Welcome to another LTX tips and tricks webinar. I'm Malaysia, community manager at LTX. We are joined by Corbett and Maddie, Madeline for serious, Maddie for fun. How are y'all doing today?
Doing great. It looks like we've already got a lot of people in the chat and joining, so that's exciting. It's always more fun to present to an audience, although I think most of you watch this on YouTube anyways, but good to see everyone.
Absolutely. It looks like, is it Leah? Said good day, good day. Would love to hear from everyone who's already online. How's your morning going? Your afternoon going? Where are you based in the world? Jonathan asks, good morning. Will this be recorded? Absolutely. Every time we meet this way, we are recording and uploading to our YouTube channel. So yes, it will be recorded and available not only on YouTube, but in the Discord.
The fun part about recording is when we make mistakes on this, it lives forever online, so that's my favorite part.
Exactly. Everyone's gonna know I can't say tips and tricks.
Let's just wait to my demo part.
Keeping
Oh,
it out for
good
our
to see
bloopers.
you. Yeah. For those that did see the upscale talk in SF, that was a really fun one. Good venue, and it's amazing how much we've added even since then. I think it's the most fun part about these is that every time we do a webinar, there's something really meaty to dig into, some new feature, and so that's the best part for me personally. So shout out to the product and engineering teams for constantly cranking out all these new things.
Absolutely.
Um, let's see. Yeah, we're just about to start, so give us a shout where you're based out of. We'll see who's the furthest away. I'm in Chicago, snowy Chicago. There's like a foot of snow on the ground, so I got my warm hoodie on. But we're from all over, so it's always fun to see like the different countries that people are calling in from.
For sure. It's a very pretty day in New York, and it's insane that I'm starting to believe that 34 degrees is not that cold. But it's not that cold today. So, Australia 3 a.m.
3
Thank
a.m.
you for being with us at 3 a.m.
Wow. Just for you, we'll do a special request because you're up so late or early. I'm guessing late. But yeah, that's a tough time. So, we could give a bit of background early. Oh, wow, look at you. I have no chance of waking up at 3 a.m. I'm super impressed. So for today, we do have a lot of really exciting things to cover. There's some really new big features. We're going to spend a lot of time on Retake, which has been my personal favorite since sometimes you generate a clip and it's perfect except for one part. And this way you can do infinite retakes and still keep what you love but then change the bits that you need. So we'll also touch on um, kind of recapping all the models that are available since there's kind of a plethora of things you can choose from. So we'll introduce, Nano Banana 3, the Pro version, as well as some updates to Flux from Black Forest Labs. And a bunch of small UX things. Some of them, even though they're small, they're tiny but mighty, and I love them a lot. So we'll go through that. But since folks are just streaming in, I think we'll start screen sharing in a second, unless you guys have anything else you want to add to the agenda.
Yeah, one last thing, and this is just something that I like to remind everyone of, but I'm also very excited because I'm kind of teasing something. So, while this is not a live Q&A and the focus is not necessarily to answer each question that's asked live, feel free to use Zoom's Q&A feature to submit a question, and based on relevance and if time permits, we'll try to answer it live. For any questions that we're not able to answer live, please, please, please don't hesitate to ask them within our Discord channel. I'm going to drop the link right now. So that is the link to our Discord. You can find me there and other members of our team there. There is specifically a channel called LTX Help. Go there for all of the help that you need with LTX. We can answer your questions there. And also, as far as me teasing something, we are cooking up something that will give you all an opportunity to just ask questions rapid fire for like an hour straight. I'm scared that I said that out loud. But I'm also excited that I said that out loud because we really do want to do our best in supporting you all and using this product to the best of your abilities. So that's something that is on the horizon. Look out for it. And up until then, our questions, you can direct them to the Discord.
Yeah, that's a great point. These are mostly to highlight new features that we came out with, but we realized how many times people have specific questions, so we're going to open up a space for that. But with that being said, feel free to ask away in the Q&A, and we'll do our best to answer it. And with that, I'll start sharing my screen so that let me share sound and optimize for video sharing. That way, everyone can see what we're going to dig into. So, is this showing up properly for everyone?
Perfect.
Cool. All right. Um, all right. So I know we always have a mix of new people. Oh, and shout out to the 63K Discord community. Another shout out to join that. I'll hit maybe later, even though I'm already in it. It's been a while since some of you have seen this. And a lot has happened in the last over a month since we've done one of these. But we know there's a mixture of power users and new users for any of these webinars. So we'll do our best to go over some basics, but just we're going to be focusing on the newest features. That being said, for a lot of you, this might be a new UX overall. If you notice, it's just branded to LTX. LTX-2 being our most recent video model, we both make the software and the models underpinning it and pipe in a lot of cool tech from other image and video providers. So we'll highlight the plethora of models you can choose for image and video, but the overall UX might look a little different. Up here, there's a nice banner that talks about some of the newer things. There's a cool promotion here going on where there's unlimited Flux 2 generations for the standard plans and above, so check that out. And then another one calling out here is Retake, which is being able to chop off bits of videos you've already made and regenerate them according to things you want to change. So we'll spend a lot of time on that. We also have seen a few things here. The API, which means that for developers, they can hit an access point and get back content, so you can plug in our video model to other apps that you're building. That's been a bigger part of our business recently. So we'll dive into the kind of LTX Studio workflow, which is very user friendly. But if you notice here on the side, the API playgrounds, this is kind of just to give you a highlight of what kinds of things you can call through the API and what you get back. Very similar user functionality when you end up getting these videos. So we'll play around in the actual workspace. But since the API has been a bigger part of our business, it's worth mentioning if these look new to you, that's what these areas are dedicated for, just to show you what you can get from that. So if you're interested, you can get API access here. Check out the documents down here if you're a developer. But this will be focused more on the user-facing stuff, and so that will be more in the core platform here for the webinar. Okay, so that being said, I'll pop into a project just to highlight a few things. I was playing around with something kind of fun. Oh, it already preloaded this, but I'll start in the gen space. But I was playing around with a kind of a fun, I don't know, melting dreamy landscape. I'll play just like a few seconds of it, and then I'll go into a project. But I just want to check that the sound and video is working before I go on. Most of that's just inspired by a weird dream I had recently. So it's very Salvador Dali-esque, although it didn't use his name in any prompts, even though I think he's fair game these days. But I'll show a few things as we go through that I used to just architect some of those clips. It took about like 45 minutes, but I was just playing around with some of the new features, including retake, including the new models. But we'll start here just in the gen space. So for those that aren't familiar, you can have elements in your project, like this yellow car I made. You can have characters, people, and other objects that you inject into your videos. But the gen space for me is really the heart of the platform. And I'll just show a few prompts real quick, just to highlight some of these new features, since I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with like the core piece of, LTX, the ability to generate something with a reference image, using context to change it. And of course, a big piece of that is the model picker here. So there's the image and video part. I'll just start with a video so I can show off retake. But before I get into that, a few highlights on the model differences. these might look new to folks. A big one to call out is Nano Banana Pro. Some people would say this is probably the most advanced image model. It's certainly very new. And we also want to call out the differences of like what's low cost to use and what's more efficient. For now, I would really focus on these because if you're on standard plan or above, these are unlimited for Flux to Flex and Pro. The small differences I'd mention here is if you're really going for photorealism, I use Pro here. And if you want something cinematic like an HBO show or something, I use Flex for that, world building, things like that. But play around with both of them. The other ones down here are very cost effective. Flux one you might use for simple image editing, like removing this thing from this image, like this frame, etc. I think the best way is get a handle on a similar prompt with different models. But today, honestly, they're all so good. Like the images are becoming such a solved problem. I bop around between Nano Banana Pro for complex things, using multiple images. You might notice here that with Nano Banana Pro, you can still use multiple reference images. And then a very small UX thing I want to call out is we've just updated, I think in the last few days, this color picker here. And so what this lets you do is take this dropper and you can select a specific shade from an image, for example, and you could say, hey, here's that specific color. And you could say, change the background wallpaper color. So it's just a way to take a color from an image and use that in your prompt. It's something some folks have wanted for being a lot more specificity. If let's say you have a brand that you really care about the palette, etc. But one more call out is all these buttons here are quite sticky. So if you have, one image versus 12, that can make a big difference for compute. And so I keep it on the settings I want. If I change something, like in video, if I have audio on, I change it back right away so I don't accidentally burn all my tokens, generating 12 images. Because here, for example, I didn't need that. I only needed one. But you can see that the color picker worked successfully and got the right background shade. Very happy with the result, but did I need three? No. So pay attention to the sticky buttons down here. You'll notice the resolution here and what sizing you can get on the ratio for the images, and a few other buttons that we'll show in a little bit, ranging from camera angle and location. But the color dropper is quite new, so I wanted to call that one out from the UX first. Anything you guys want to add before I move on to some video stuff?
No, that pretty much covered it. I will say the color picker is one of the first, as I think you called it, one of these kind of small but mighty features
Hmm.
that we're working on. Our friends and users who are working on behalf of brands using this in their professional workflows. We hear you and we see you, and we've got some excited kind of brand kit updates coming soon.
Very cool. So another, speaking of tiny but mighty features, one that I adore so much, and we'll get to this later, is it's small, but this favorite button here, because when you go into the rough cut, when you are, as I showed, like putting together this movie, one thing I really love is that now your favorited items can pop up in the media library here. If you're like me, I'm kind of all over the place with prompting, so I have a zillion things in my library. In this way, I can favorite things. I know that they'll appear at the very top of my list. And there's these fun UX things about like, hover to play things, but sometimes even with that, it was hard to realize which is the actual piece of content I want to drag in. And now you can really easily see, hey, I want to drag this in, and it helps you organize your projects really well. You can still access every single project through here, and if you don't have that, it just brings up the most recent things you've generated. But this way, it helps you really cull down all of your generations. And to me, that's been one of my most used features because I'm always building rough cuts and trying to sort through my gen space, and that's been wonderful. All right, so I'll do one more just to show a example where I use certain projects or certain models. If I want something cinematic, like um, I just rewatched an episode of Game of Thrones. No copyright infringement. I won't use anything in the prompt, but it had me thinking of it. So if I said something like expansive, like a Lord of the Rings or some really expansive scene, I might use this. It might be the snow that's got me thinking this way. But if I said like a snowy field with armored riders on horseback. Oops. um, charging ahead. If I had just made something like this, I would probably use Flex because the cinematic quality. And but using something like this close-up picture of the model here above us, I'd use something like Pro just because I'm going for ultra realistic things, like really close-up shots. So yeah, if you're doing, something for makeup or tutorial, I'd probably use the Pro for the really cool photorealism. But then for something more expansive, I'd use the Flex model. Going back to, let me switch over to video now. And you also notice, by the way, with these models, kind of usually tied with cost of compute, you also have time of compute, basically. They're not exactly one-to-one, but they're very close. And so here, if you're using not necessarily a legacy model, but not one of the most advanced ones, it will operate a little faster. And so that's more noticeable in the video space versus the image space, but something to call out if you're caring about like speed. Because to be honest, none of these were exactly what I was imaging or picturing. And so if you're cycling through concepts quickly, you might want to use different models just to crank out results a little faster. So let's do a few examples of so we can show off retake. So I'll do something like, and by the way, here I'm just using LTX Pro. You can use fast if you want something faster, but since I'm going to kick off a few, I'll just let them load as I'm talking. And then we have all of our VO models here. By the way, is it VO or VEO? Because every time I talk with someone, I say VO, and a lot of people say VEO. What's
I
the
say
official
video
word?
as well.
Yeah.
Y'all let us know in the comments. Do you
Yeah.
say video or VO?
We need someone from Google to chime
Right.
in.
Yeah. Is anyone from Google calling in? It says something to the man causing him to laugh. This is the most basic prompt, but I just want to show off something with retake. And then I'll say a truck is driving down a highway. I'll say desert highway, tips over and spills a bunch of rubber duckies on the road. So very basic, non-creative prompts. But to show off retake, I'm just trying to show the basic of the basic piece of a video where I might want to change the ending or change how things worked. In practice, where I've been using this is sometimes it's really hard to get the right visual language, and I'll go back to my like wax buildings thing. Um, Sometimes when I stumble on the right like video clip, I love everything about half of it, and then the back half really lets me down. And so realistically, when I've been using this, is that it's I was like struggling to get some type of image and or video, and where this helps me is that part of it might be okay, but then part of it's not. So I remember in one of these, I was doing a video of this guy, but the second half of the video had all these people in it. And I was trying to have this dreamlike scenario where there aren't other people in the shot. And so Retake let me just take half that video and then redo it so that I could make it still this like dreamy, desolate landscape. Again, for those that are new, you can have different sessions here. So I didn't name them, but my newest session here is down here. This can let you group the various generations by category. Maddie has suggested in the past that I get more organized with my chaotic generations, so I've been trying to do a better job. This is a little bit of a goofy, like to make this more realistic. What I might do is redo this and say, um, I could say swerves to avoid a person in the road tips over because it looks a little goofy with it just swerving by itself. A few other pro tips. When you have something you like, you can copy the prompt here. We've talked about this in the past, but it's really useful for retake. And if you want to copy everything, just hit this button and you use the parameters, including if you had any reference image here. So if I had a reference image here and I said the men on horseback charge towards a castle. If you had a generation here, guess I can't spell horse back. If you had a generation here and you get rid of it, the settings are sticky. If you hit this button, it'll pull in both the reference image and the prompt. But just copying the prompt alone is really useful for retake, which I'll show you. So here, if you go to tools, I'll do this one first. I'll change this. So they're talking, and let's say I really like this setup, but I want him to be angry. I could say tools, go to retake, and it pops up this module. What's neat about this is up to like anything over 2 seconds you can redo. And the slider here lets you pick what part of the prompt you want to regenerate. So I just go until the like start of the scene that I want to change, and maybe right here, and I'll say continue. And you'll want to regenerate that language. Note here that again, settings are sticky, so I'm going to redo that. I'm going to copy the original prompt I had here. But instead of the woman said something to the man, causing him to laugh, I'll say causing him to be angry. And again, these are the most basic prompts, not very creative, not really striving with the details to make them exciting looking visually, but just to show off the features. I wanted to point out a few quick tips here. But if you want, this is where you can go back and continue to edit the section that you want to change. But it's sticky in the sense that, if you wanted to get two different retake shots, you can keep hitting generate or change the number of generations down here. So you'll get different variations. Realistically, you probably only need one or two. It's worked for me for the most part. Um, and so we'll see how this goes. That's not what I expected, but I actually like the comedic value of it. This is how I look often when getting news I don't like. But I can give more direction. For example, what I would probably do is make something either since he's facing the camera, I have him swipe the coffee off of the table, and so I can do the same thing, be angry and push the coffee off the table angrily. Sure, why not? So you can keep playing around with it to get the reactions you want. It's kind of funny in both of them he turned to the camera, which I didn't estimate, but how else are you going to see he's angry? So we'll let that load. And then here we'll redo our little truck spilling over. So that really blew up in an AI way. And so I would probably even redo this to make it more that it's swerving around an object. So I'll do this one more time. But, well, while I'm doing this, Alasia and Maddie, have you used this for anything? Have you played around with Retake for anything you really like?
Something I know the internal team has been doing a lot, which is cracking us all up, is using the audio function and kind of changing
Right.
what characters are saying. Not only is this fun for kind of meme purposes and putting words in your friends' mouths, but also in terms of localization for also kind of business uses, it's a really cool thing. It also saves us a lot of time internally.
That's a great example. I'll say a tired looking man is hosting a webinar and says, "Welcome." And so by the way, we didn't talk about this, but I have audio on here, and I could say, I'll say, politician gets up to a podium and says, so we'll change the text with retake as Maddie said. That's a really good one. I haven't actually played around with the audio part as much, but can be really useful, especially when you're making a promo video or something really specific in mind instead of just chaotically um, messing around with things here. With the audio on, so that's on in a lot of models by default. I'll show you where you can change that, but here in the preview here, if you click that, it'll play as you are hovering over these different images. But let's do this, even though this isn't my favorite spill mechanism, I'll have something else drop out of it. So we'll take this and then I'll start at the spill and it starts about here-ish. And I'll say, I don't know, what's a good audience suggestion of something that should spill out of the truck instead?
I'd say lots of money.
I like that. And spill, should we make it gold coins or dollar bills? Uh,
I kind of like the gold coins of it all.
let's do it. It's gonna look very like Mario-esque because I don't know. How often does this really happen? I'm sure it's not very good training data of trucks spilling gold coins, but let's do it. Okay, so here's our politician welcoming everyone. Let's unmute this.
Welcome!
And then that's not very inspiring. It looks like an SNL skit, honestly. Um, and
Welcome!
we'll do this though. We'll change this, do the retake, and then where does it happen actually?
Welcome!
Okay, that's annoying. I'm gonna mute this real quick. There. Um, Retake, and it happens actually in the beginning. So I should have had something happen at the end so we can still keep something interesting at the end, but let's do it. So I'll do another one where the politician walks off the stage, and so we can actually have some action at the end to make it more interesting. But I'll say the politician says goodbye. Cool. So let me do this just so I can show that you can keep a back part of this. So I'm going to redo this prompt, um, and walks off the stage. So now we have some action at the end we can keep. So I'm going to let that roll, and let's see how our gold coins.
It's
Exactly as I
actually
thought.
not bad. It's not too
Yeah.
bad at all. And we have Nico who said, have dollar bills fly out of the truck and fly all crazy until the dollars form the shape of a dinosaur. Nico,
Why not?
you are our team. We're like, what is the wildest thing we could think of? Type, enter.
Okay, cool. Let's do it. All right. I'm gonna again copy. You'll find this really useful. Copy this, and I'll say um, spills and bunch of dollar bills spill out, whirl around in the wind, and um, and how should I say coalesce into the shape of a dinosaur? I say whirl onto the wind, ending up in the shape of a dinosaur. Now we're going like real fantasy level, but let's give that a shot. Okay. Or I'll just copy Nico's actual prompt. Let's try that. There. Cool. All right. So, and I'll give, since this is a hard one, I'm going to give it like three tries of that one. All right, cool. And then going back to our politician, here we go. Is this it? Yeah.
Goodbye.
It sounds like Trump. Hold on, one more time.
Goodbye.
Yeah, that's definitely the training data. Um, so cool. All right. But anyways, I wanted to point that out. I'm using kind of basic prompts. It's more interesting when you the dinosaur more emerges and that you have to be quite prescriptive when you're doing these things. But let's see if any of these got it. No, not really. Um, that's awesome. So let me go back to, I think when this is most useful, it's when you're using it for actual, uh, something, when you have a scene actually in mind, it makes it more realistic for what you're going towards. So let me show you one that I actually did here. So, I had these, let's see, let me turn the sound off. So here, um, yeah, I had these, you know, not Game of Thrones-esque folks going towards an army. But if you take this and you say, okay, I want to redo this, this is more useful when you have a real vision in mind. So here, instead of just doing kind of a BS prompt just to show how it works, I actually did want to change something specific here, and that makes the prompting easier. So here, if I go here, instead of meeting a bunch of people, I'm just going to have them meet a solitary figure. So I can say this, I'll copy this, and I'll say the camera focuses on first on riders, then pans out to show them racing towards a single wizard in a cloak. So here, it tends to be, oh, I did one up there. It tends to be much better when you kind of are actually, I think when you have a vision in mind, your prompts get much more accurate and better for the purposes instead of just playing around with it. And so one of my biggest pieces of advice is if you're playing around with this, actually try to have like a story in mind or something like this where you you're trying to pull something out of your head onto paper, and then you'll find the words better to really architect the prompts in the way you want. Let me go back to the playground here. So here as an example, we have these riders now approaching, and instead of the giant army, hopefully it's just a single wizard. So there we go. So I found it to be really helpful when you have the first piece that you really like. Like I really did like the imagery of these riders, and I wanted to save it, and so that way you can still keep all the pieces you love, but then transform in the back half of it. So, yeah, I guess to touch on recap, give it a shot with both editing the pieces of video you like, edit the phrasing and wording, and use it to keep like the seed of a video that you want, or just change the initial or ending action to preserve what you want. It's different than just cutting it down. Like in the rough cuts, sometimes something will be good, but I'll cut it down to size because I didn't like the way it ended. With this, you can really extend that, keep it the way you want, and preserve, the intent that you had behind the generation. Awesome. All right. I'll scoot to a few other things and a few other tips. But anything else on retake, Maddie or Alasia, before I jump off of that subject?
Nothing on retake in particular, but we did just receive a chat, and I just want to say, number one, thank you for dropping the question. And I do want to acknowledge it. Kanchan, and if I pronounced your name incorrectly, apologies. Definitely let me know how to pronounce it correctly in the chat. Mentioned India has one of the world's largest creator communities. Are there any early insights on how the new tools are performing with Indian creators, or any plans to localize features, workflows for that audience? I'm stopping and pausing to acknowledge this because while I don't have the answers live, I think this would be great to have to continue the conversation around in our Discord. We have people, 62,000 people specifically, and I'm sure that you can imagine they're from all over the world in our Discord. And so I plan to drop this chat into the general chat in our Discord and definitely join. Think you should join us over there just to kind of like dive into that question and conversation even more.
Yeah. Absolutely. And by the way, too, for other folks, like as it was fun to have the suggestions as I'm going through these things. I'll do some other generations for um, uh, the different models. But if you have things that are locally relevant or relevant to projects you're working on, feel free to drop them in and we'll play around with them together. The hard part, especially when you're live and when this is being recorded for posterity forever, the hard part about the workflow of AI video is that there are a lot of happy accidents, but there are two or three times as many times when it's really frustrating and you get stuck in a rut with generations. I think part of it is um, intuitively learning the strengths, the pros and cons of these different models, and what it's good at, what it's not, and then sometimes going with the flow with it. So it can often feel like it's this river where there's a boulder in your way, and you're be banging your head against the wall trying to get a result, and you end up just having to take crack it at a different angle. For most things, you'll find that you can figure it out, but it does take this trial and error where sometimes you have to really push to get the result, and sometimes you got to think about how can I get that result in a different way. So there's a lot of problems making these general things specific to your projects, to your local concerns and communities, and the characters you have in mind, things like that. But we want to hear more where it's falling short, and we want to see more examples where you've managed to eke out the results you want. But definitely playing with AI, it's not solved for you. It's very artistic in the sense that there's a lot of trial and error, a lot of failure, and that's just the name of the game. All right. So I'm just gonna, since we talked a little bit about the models, but I want to show it in more detail. Since I can burn tokens and you don't want to have to, we're just gonna play around with. Feel free to drop some prompts in here, by the way. But I'm gonna start with a few different random prompts, and we'll just talk about the differences that we see. Some of them might be things that I agree with and see a lot. Some of them might just be errors, but we'll start going through these in a row. So if you're on the standard plan and above, you do have unlimited access right now to Flex and Pro from Flux via Black Forest Labs. But we'll start playing around with this same scene and show some of the differences. So for Flex, like I said, if you have a prompt like this, I'm going to do the same prompt for everything and then highlight a few ones where I'd be more specific. We're just going to go through all of them just to show something. And then I will start showing different types of models are different types of prompts and showing which ones I think work best with different models. So we've now pummeled the servers with our requests, and we can see three prompts from each model. Um, the top one being Flex, aka like the cinematic one. The second one being Pro, um, and the other ones being Legacy. What's funny is the Flex sometimes can appear overly cinematic. Like here, it's not quite realistic enough. It's good with fantasy and sci-fi, but I kind of like the grittier, older ones right here. Like I like the kind of more muted, grittier models just from Flux One for these scenic images. And then going down to Nano Banana, you can notice that it has really, it's not like too overly dramatic, but it does have really good detail. So if you compare like this here with the kind of muted ones here, it can have better detail if you still want to have that kind of, that does look too much like Game of Thrones. I might get a letter, I might get a cease and desist from HBO. We gotta take that off. I didn't. I promise I didn't use any prompt infringe. So I think that I found if you're getting stuck, this is really amazing for the cinematic ones. If it's feeling too like video game, you can use other models for this more muted aesthetic. But in general, even though it's a lot, Gemini 3 a lot because it does balance these things really well.
And
Um,
one thing, Corbett, I don't know if Maddie, you experienced like any lag in Corbett speaking just now, or it's on my end. I was hoping you could repeat the last like maybe 30 seconds of what you mentioned.
it's funny. I realized I'm on the wrong Wi-Fi network, so could switch
No
to the other
worries at
one.
all. That's the first time we had any issues.
Okay, let me know if it happens again, and I'll switch to it. I'm inadvertently on the wrong Wi-Fi. Okay, so sorry if there was lag. Let me know if it happens again, and I'll switch the Wi-Fi networks. But what I was saying basically is, as you play around with these models, one of the best things to do when you're starting a project is just testing out if you're going for aesthetic. Like when I was starting that scene where someone's walking through a city where the buildings are melting like wax, one of the first things I do is play around with the aesthetic of my project. So if I was writing something like this, a person is walking through a desolate city landscape where the buildings are melting like wax. If I have a prompt like this, often what I'll do is just play around with each of the models to understand where they're going with it. And you need to do this sometimes to understand what they're good at, what they're not. But in terms of, we'll do this for one more prompt so we can all see this. But there's definitely some models I end up relying on as like my daily drivers because they're so good. The Nano Banana Pro being one of them for sure. But we'll go through this again just so you can see. Um, Flux Flex is kind of famously good for cinematic things. So in this, I would probably like the results. And yeah, you can see if I were to do a close-up of a person, I might use Flux Pro, but sometimes they can feel overly cinematic, like they feel too much like a video game. And in that sense, the older models sometimes give a more muted but still nice aesthetic. So similar to the armored riders I showed above, often I do end up enjoying the older models for the aesthetic they provide, and I use that for like art direction and discovery. However, like I said, uh, combining like the detail and aesthetic, often Nano Banana Pro does do well. I didn't really give it any color depiction, so that might have made this too muted. But honestly, I like the coloring of Flux One sometimes the best for these. So it's just worth playing around with the different models to understand with a certain prompt what you're getting back. It can be like decision fatigue because you have so much. But let's do one more thing. If I have a specific person, like let's just take this person. Let's see how they do with close-ups. A close-up of this person's.
This is great, Corbett, because we actually have a question from Ilya. I'm hoping that's how you pronounce your name. Which model is best for 3D and anime? I know we do have an anime style preset, but in terms of
Mhm.
which model, I'm not sure. I think you might have to test it out. Corbett, have you noticed anything within the models?
I would say by default the I would probably think something like Flex, but to be honest, a biggest one of the biggest things you can do there is take the reference image and use that. And you know the newest models like Nano Banana are so awesome at the reference images that I think it might nail it. But here, for example, this is a good encapsulation of the difference for close-ups real quick. See Flex, which is more like cinematic versus Pro, which is more detailed. If you're going ultra realistic, like I keep saying, the Pro is Flux Pro is best for the ultra realistic. Like for this, for example, I can't even really tell that's AI. Like that just looks like a shot out of a HDR camera. But you can notice that the close-up is more cinematic looking for Flex. That's probably the most typical comparison I can give. The older models tend to be not as high fidelity in close-up shots. You can see here like Flux One. It just doesn't look quite as real. And so definitely for ultra realistic things like product shots, close-ups, people, the Pro model from Flux is best. If you want to add that cinematic touch, use Flex. The older models can struggle with that photorealism. But sometimes, like I said, they do have fun aesthetics you can use. Let's try it. Let's try an anime style. Was there anything in the, sorry, I wasn't looking at the Q&A.
Yeah,
Was there
there's
any?
actually one more regarding
Sure.
retake.
Mhm.
So Bob asked, can I use retake to improve the quality of a video clip done with a grainier looking older model, doing the
Hmm.
first half and then the second half with a more realistic model?
I wonder. So the
I
uh,
want to jump in here. I
yeah.
personally haven't tested this out, but I do know that one of the use cases we're exploring for retake is restoration of old footage, whether it's kind of archival footage, something just from 10, 20 years ago. It is a use case. I haven't tested it myself, but definitely would recommend giving it a try.
Yeah, and you know it's worth mentioning right now the best way, like if you're trying to get a video, I'll do it with here. Like the best way is to take a shot like this, like an image, and you just make a video of that. You can't really import a video per se. I know it's like a often requested um, element, but you know you can have a starting frame, and so uh, with retake, it would be only for videos that are in the platform. So Maddie and Alasia, let me know if I'm wrong on that, but I think you might have difficulty bringing that video in for retake, but I could be wrong. Let me look at that because I haven't played around with that particular use case yet.
You're right. It actually is within the
Oh, you
playground.
could. Yeah. So that's so yeah, in the platform. So when we mentioned the API playground, in the platform you might have difficulty with the UX there, but in the playground you could drop in the video here. So I would love to see everyone's take on how they're able to import these old pieces of content. So that is it's funny, that is a often requested feature to make core to the UX in these tools. And so one way you can get around that is in playing around with the API space. So here you'll notice the let's see. I guess you could do it here too. Look at that. I've learned something new. So for retake, when you have the setting here, right here it'll ask for a start frame, but you can do it here, not just in the API playground, but here as well. So you definitely upload existing videos. Let us know. And Maddie, as Maddie said, I think kind of rehabbing old content could be a cool way to do it. And as a workaround, I know so many of you have asked about make it easy to bring in your assets to LTX Studio, specifically video. So this way you could start to bring them into the platform and then arrange them in the rough cut here. Yeah. Very cool. So maybe we'll have a I propose for the next webinar, one thing I should do is I'll take some royalty-free, very legacy footage. There's a lot of things that are 100 years old now in the public domain, and we'll ingest all those assets in the platform and build something fun and new out of it. That actually could be a really fun use case for creators here, where if you look up, you know, what's in the common domain, what's kind of expired rights, you have a really big opportunity to take old assets and put your spin on them, and now they're in the common domain, so you're good to go as a creator. So take a look at that, try it. That'd be really fun, and great suggestion from the audience there. That's something I'd like to do for the next webinar as well.
Love that. We also just got a note from Scott that says definitely want to ingest my assets. Yes. So everyone is just super excited for where things can go, and we're excited to see where the community takes everything.
Yeah. If we had more time, I don't want to bore people with like Google searching and things, but if Maddie or Leisure, there's anything you want to show, you could bop around on the platform for a bit and I'll go find some old assets. I could do that just to show the audience here. We could test it live together. I'm not scared of trying things live for the first time, but I don't know if there's anything else you want to show on the platform.
There's nothing that I have in particular that I want to show. Maddie, what about you?
No, but if you want to go ahead and Google search Malaysian, I can give some teasers of what's coming up.
Absolutely. So
Sure. All right, I'll
there's
stop
so
sharing for a bit so I can, yeah, let me stop sharing and then I'll go find some old assets that I know are in the public domain that I won't get sued for using. And then, yeah, feel free to go ahead.
I'm super excited to see what you come up with, Corbett. But like Maddie mentioned, in the meantime, we'd love to tease some things that we have coming up. One of them I'm really excited about is a partnership via like with the webinar that we're doing with Black Forest Labs. So that will be happening next week. Check your inboxes soon for more information about that. We will be talking more about Flux 2 with the Black Forest Labs team. So super excited to have that webinar going on next week and hope you all will join us then as well.
I know that a few of you are following along in Discord, also are following along closely with what's going on with LTX-2, our proprietary in-house model. We have obviously incorporated that into our platform, but I know some of you are waiting for the open source release. While I cannot share too much about that yet, do keep your eyes on the lookout early January for some exciting updates there. And also, additionally, I know that lip sync is a really big topic around here. We hear you, we know that. We also have our research team working hard on providing you guys with the best possible feature and tool for this. We're exploring our options and just want to make sure that we really ship something that we're proud of, we think you guys will enjoy, and you'll get a lot of use and functionality out of that. So, end of year, but a lot of big, exciting things coming from our side. Alasia, you are on mute.
I was just saying, absolutely. I think it's not a coincidence at all that we're like teasing this and teasing that. There really is so much going on behind the scenes to make sure that we're giving everyone the best experience possible.
So I think I've been playing around with it and just so I don't accidentally use the thing that would get me sued with using old footage, it might be best to wait until the next webinar. I did find some really fun old cartoons, for example, but I want to just make sure I'm not using something that's still, the property
This
of
is
someone else. It,
very fair. Legal is going
yeah.
to be like, let's talk about that webinar we had earlier.
Yeah, I don't want this to be the last one I do for you. So, yeah, so I promise I'll do that for the next one. I love that idea. I'm going to play around with it after this call. But what I would do for the folks that are interested in, if you don't have your own footage you want to bring into the platform, just search for things in the public domain. It looks like there's some old movies, like some old fun movies. There's like live action. There's also some old fun cartoons, but I don't want to use the wrong one, so I want to be sure I'm trusting the source. But I will promise I'll do that for next time.
This
Cool. All right. So just to recap today, thanks for everyone for the attention, and there was a good amount of you on the call, so we really appreciate the engagement. And again, shout out to those that woke up at 3 a.m. in Australia for this. So what we covered is retake. We covered some UX improvements. Definitely test out not just retake with items on the platform, but assets you've brought into it. You can do it through either the API playground or in the retake section of LTX's main workflow. And try out all the little features too, like favoriting things. Try out all the fun, tiny but mighty things like the color picker. Let us know what you're having success with. The Discord channel, as we talked about earlier, has some good LTX help places for you to post and us to talk with. And soon we'll have a more prolonged, more interactive Q&A. And I will get my pencil sharpened and ready for the next webinar where we'll rehab some old footage together and make some new stuff. Thanks everyone for joining.
Thanks, everyone. I think the small but mighty section of this webinar is going to become my new favorite, hopefully recurring part of the webinars. And like Corbett just mentioned, thank you all. We hope to continue the conversation in the Discord. I'm going to drop that link one more time because truly there's so much valuable information. There's so many users, both newbies and expert users in the Discord. So across the gambit, would love to see you all there.
Cool.
Alrighty, I'll see you at the next one.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.